The vaccination number one in business is zero debt. I know that many people consider zero debt to be an impossible dream in business, but it is practical and the theory is very, very simple. If your return on capital employed is reasonably high, let's say X%, and you control your growth to Y% per year, and the return is higher than the growth, then you don't need loans to grow. But if your returns are low and you want to grow by 50% or 100% per year, it is very clear that you have to take loans. Okay, so this is coupled with this recession growth, because people want to grow extraordinarily fast in certain years because they believe they cannot grow every year. If you believe that you can grow every year, then you don't need to grow at an accelerated pace at any particular period of time. You can grow at a steady pace. So this is something where we are seeing the difference happening in the market. Anyone who has been leveraged very high is closing down. And anyone who has medium or low leverage or zero leverage is doing much, much better. Vaccination number 2 for retail is frontline entrepreneurs. Malabar Gold, we have implemented that system where in every retail shop, we have entrepreneurs running the front line. That's a huge difference from the so-called professional managed retail chains. So you can be very professionally managed if you're so strong. But if you're an up-and-coming business and still growing, if you have a frontline entrepreneurship system, it helps you very greatly in times of stress. The third vaccination, which goes against all conventional wisdom, which I have mentioned in the past, is take limited market share in a particular market segment. Unfortunately, people are told to take maximum market share. I would recommend not more than 10 to 15% market share in a particular segment, whereas people are aspiring for 40-50% market share. The moment you have too much market share in a particular segment, if you are hit by a recession or a black swan, you cannot recoup your profits at that particular point of time, because you are the most severely hit. So how do you grow if you limit your market share? The first thing is, if your market share in a town crosses 10%, you should go to the next town. If your market share in a state crosses 10%, you should go to the next state. If your market share in a country crosses 10%, you should go to the next country. So growth, we are not saying that you should not grow, but you should not overexpose yourself in any particular market segment. The fourth vaccination I see is what I call the cluster approach. I've seen people start a store in Calicut and the next store in Trivandrum. And this business is where you can actually have a shop in Perlamanna, Thrissur, and so on and so forth. So when I asked the entrepreneur, why did you start your second shop in Trivandrum? His only reason is, I got the location in Trivandrum. There is no logic. In retail, cluster approach helps you in terms of supply chain, in terms of marketing. Okay, let's say you're doing delivery or centralized delivery or centralized whole supply chain. You need to have a cluster. So depending on the industry inside retail, whether it's jewelry or whether it's groceries, or there is a cluster requirement. The next shop can be put so many kilometers from the other shop. In some high-end shops, it may be, Calicut one shop, maybe the next shop in Perlamana. In a very basic product, it may be 4 shops in Calicut. So you have to grow as a cluster rather than the example I've shown here is, somebody put a store in Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Kolkata, 5 stores. These 5 stores will not help you in branding or marketing cluster. It will not help you in supply chain. Rather, have it in, for example, 5 stores in Kerala or 5 stores in Malabar area, depending on the kind of industry that you're in. So cluster approach, which helps us in the supply chain and the marketing part. Next is vaccination number 5, which is what I call multi-market approach. For example, sitting in Kerala, normally the first area that any entrepreneur starts off with is Kerala. So you put up shops in Kerala. The next is to go out of Kerala, out of state. Now, what I have recommended to most of my clients who are able to do this is, if you're going out of state, you should go out of country also. And GCC for us is the nearest international market available for us to do. The reason I'm talking about going to GCC is because GCC is an international market. It gives us a lot of exposure to what is happening around the world without, like trying to go to the US in one shot. No, you go to GCC first. So India plus GCC. For example, Malabar Gold has done that. Just to give you a contrast, Tanishq is only in India, which I consider to be a fundamental weakness of Tanishq, although Tanishq has got a lot of other strengths. And once you have gone India and GCC, then the next thing is to go to other parts of the world. That means even today, for example, Malabar, Malabar could put up another 500 stores in Kerala, in India, 1,000 stores in India. But they've gone to Singapore, they've gone to Malaysia, and as the chairman talked in the morning, they've gone to the US. This is part of a strategy that we evolved 15 years ago. That is, we need to be multi-market. But again, following a cluster approach. In Singapore, we'll put up 2-3 shops. In Malaysia, 3 shops. In UAE, so many shops. When US now, the first shop, they'll put a cluster. Okay, that's the way we grow. So this is the 5th vaccination that you should do, particularly for a Kerala-based retail venture. The last vaccination that you should do, in my opinion, there are many more, but I thought these were the 5 most important ones, is being only in retail is highly dangerous. You have to be in the value chain. So one way you can do is go backwards. So controlled manufacturing, again the word controlled manufacturing, it's a favorite word of mine. I talk about controlled franchisees and controlled manufacturing. If you are in manufacturing also and you have retail, it is a huge advantage for you. But the problem is you should not go overboard with manufacturing if you are a retailer. Not more than 20 or 30% of your sales should come from your manufacturing. Maximum 30-40%. Because I don't have time now, there are many reasons for that. The only way your manufacturing can be highly profitable is if 100% of the sales are going to your retail shops. You can make super ROI on your manufacturing, but that means that your manufacturing has to be running at full throttle throughout the year. And every business is seasonal, which means that we cannot have 100% of our product sales in in-house manufacturing. So that's why I mention it as controlled manufacturing. To summarize, the 5 or 6 important vaccinations that I would call vaccinations, which will help us overcome black swan events, which I would consider today's recession in Kerala as a black swan event, is zero debt or minimum debt, frontline entrepreneurs in your retail business, limited market share in a market segment, cluster approach for growth, multi-market approach for growth, and being in multiple parts of the value chain. Thank you. I hope you found this interesting.